Well, welcome to Press Play Conversations. I am the Don. With me, of course, is Dean Baldwin, who's also heard on SiriusXM's Classic Rewind, Deep Tracks, and Classic Vinyl. We've got Tina. Tina's the CEO of Press Play, who we're all associated with. And we are here to talk to you, Chip Z'Nuff. How you doing, Chip?
A beautiful day here in the South.
In Alabama.
On tour, I'm traveling around the country. I'll be out until the middle of August, celebrating rock and roll and heavy metal. That's what I do.
Yes. Well, you know, speaking of which, do you have any, I do want to bring this up because it did happen. Do you have any memories with Ozzy?
Oh, you kidding me? Absolutely. At one time, I thought Sharon was going to actually manage the band, but then we got Doc McGee to step in and help us. And it was a little closer to us because Doc is a Chicago boy, and of course, Enuff Z'Nuff's from Chicago. But Ozzy and Enuff Z'Nuff were both sharing A&M Studios back in 92, maybe it was, in Los Angeles. Beautiful place, too. Nice facility. Everybody was in the studio at that time recording. And I remember Ozzy and Vikki Foxx, my old drummer, on the fire escape at A&M Studios, smoking Dunhills cigarettes and pot while Randy Castillo was doing those drum parts. It was fascinating. And Ozzy was charming beyond belief. He loved Dunhill cigarettes. I had no idea. And he seen that I was ripping the filter off, so he followed suit. But the one thing about Ozzy, he really liked making records. He was having a hard time walking that day. This is 92, guys.
Wow.
And I said, what's wrong with your leg, bro? He said, you try doing a gram of cocaine and drinking a bottle of Jack every day and see how you fucking walk. And I thought, I said the wrong thing. I didn't want to ruffle his feathers. But he was charming. And I think he liked Enuff Z'Nuff because he liked our Beatle-esque sound, which I thought was apropos because he's a huge Beatle fan as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I took away from that, we hung out a couple of times, actually. We were in the studio for a few weeks at A&M. One thing I took away was he really loved his family. He really cherished his kids and his lovely wife. And that was the hardest part about being on the road for him and going away and making records was being away from his family. Mm-hmm. And I have to agree with him on that. There's a challenge for all musicians that are out there. You leave your friends and family behind and you go out and you meet the new family, but you're only with them for one day. And then you're off to the next city. So there's a lot of sacrifices out there, and there's different ways you can manifest touring around the country. And the best thing that I recommend everybody do is try to be careful with your intake and say a lot of prayers.
Is it, if I could ask real quick, Don, because I know you want to jump on something, but talking about touring, and there's all the news about the money's just not there for stream, and it seems like touring really is now the most important way for an artist to make revenue, which means that it has become even more important to get out there on the road. I mean, is that correct?
I think it is, Dean. It's always been the way to go, actually, on tour, even when records were paying a small percentage of a fee to artists for recording and going out and making records and singles. The common denominator always has been how to try to stay afloat and stay in the black. It's always been tough. And listen, that first Enuff Z'Nuff album, we recorded it in Lake Geneva. We did the record for about $60,000. They ended up, the old management company ended up overcharging the band, I don't know, 25, 30 grand. And we were very upset about that because we had no money at all whatsoever. We were certainly happy for the opportunity. And we ended up paying off the record. And then we went on tour. And because of tour support and videos and, of course, the bus and hotel rooms, etc., and press, we had found ourselves $750,000 in debt after selling 500,000 records.
Yep.
And we asked the label, and they give you the numbers. And record company, we had a good record company called Atco Records. And there was a guy named Derek Shulman that was running the show. And Derek was the old singer from a band called Gentle Giant. But there's a little word in the contract that a lot of bands don't read, and it's called recoupable. Mm-hmm. And that means you got to pay back the money on everything they put out up front for you. So touring was always the go-to for us from the beginning. But nowadays, with streaming services, and obviously there's still costs of making records. Even if you have your own studio, you still have engineers and people that are going to help you put things together. It still takes a team. I don't care how great you are. For every single band that's out there, it takes a team of people to help you to reach your goals. And on this tour they just did with Enuff Z'Nuff, we probably, I think we did some pretty good numbers, but you know what we do? We sell the records at the shows. You couldn't do that in the old days. It was against the law because there was a common thought that if you were back in the 80s and 90s, if a band was selling their records at the shows, that means you were taken away from the record stores. And they would just ban you. You just, you're blackballed, and they wouldn't support you and put your records in the stores and give you the advertisement that you need to move forward. So nowadays, here we are. It's the biggest shows too. I don't care who the band is that's playing. You go to their concert, you'll see vinyl at the shows, you'll see CDs at the shows, along with a Brinks truck full of T-shirts. So you have to go out and tour and make to even break even whatsoever. But now with ticket sales, if you're one of the top 1% of the bands, and I'm talking the Metallicas and the Oasis and Foo Fighters and all the old stuff that's out there, it's been there for years, you're going to be in a Brinks truck full of trouble if you don't work every single day you can have one day off.
I believe that we talked to Paul Humphreys from ODM, and I asked him, he happened to be playing 2 nights at the Greek Theater, and I asked him if he took any time off to have fun in LA while he was there, and he's like, no, every day costs like 10 grand. He says you can't take a day off.
Well, you can't, because let's face it, the fans don't notice either. The tour buses are $1,500 a day. The drivers are getting $450 a day. I'm not saying they're not worth it, because we need those guys. They're very important. But just to have a bus every day, you're a couple of grand, plus a hotel room for them too. So you're a couple of grand a hole every single day. Fuel prices are astronomical. They went down a little bit now, but they've always been still high, no matter how you look at the coin. And not only that, hotel rooms, it's a joke out there. It just costs so much. I don't care if you're staying at a little hovel in Mississippi, it's going to cost you a couple $100 a day for a decent place. So there's the challenges that are there on touring every single day. If you have one day off, you're in the hole. Plus, you got to pay your band.
Right.
So if at the end of the day,
true.
let's face it, it's going to be a challenge no matter what. If you don't want it 24 hours a day, just don't even get in this business.
Right.
Go. That is words of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Enough. I wanted to get into, Chip, this being your 21st studio album, Extra Cherries, but I just had to touch base because I have you here, and I just want to tell you, from the moment your first album came out and On a New Thing came on MTV, I was hooked on your band as soon as I saw New Thing.
Thanks.
And then the song of the album, For Now, which you helped to write and wrote, I love that song. It's one of my favorite all-time songs. Yeah,
Thank you. Should have been a single. First hit was New Thing. Second single was Fly Michelle. So we were doing good. We went in Billboard charts. We were 60 with New Thing, 47 with Fly Michelle. There was an uphill trajectory there. And for some reason, the powers that be, and we got caught in the middle of a political shuffle between Atco and Atlantic Records, is what I'm told. And we made a single. We put a CD together with For Now as the next single. And the record company pulled the plug and said, you know what? We've had success in the first 2 songs. Let's just go back in the studio and make another record. We were personally, we were upset. It was For Now and I Can Never Be Without You were going to be the next singles from the record. I thought they were hit songs. We came out at a weird time, bro. We put the band together in 84, got the deal in 88. Put the record out in 89. By 1990, 91, there was a whole change of the guard in the music business. The powers that be got together. A lot of people don't know this. Over at MTV, and they said, we're going to have a different style of music we're going to put out there. It's called grunge. And they signed some great bands, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, talking great bands. Mm-hmm. And everyone that was in my genre took an ass whipping. And only the strong survived. Some of the guys went away, maybe rightly so, but there's a lot of great bands out there that just had just a little bit of a little more of a push, and they would have been a household name. They didn't get the chance. And it was a tough time for a lot of different people. No one understood why. We just said, changing the guard, flannel T-shirts and boots, and that's the way it's going to go, and different music. And it's going to be sad. And it's going to be a little bit of a little heart-wrenching and sinful, and it was great. The songs were fantastic. I mean, when you turn the radio on, you don't see your face on the radio. Smoke machines and chicks shaking their asses. You just hear the songs.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll switch back, and then hip-hop started coming in real strong, too. And listen, there's nothing you can do. What once was old is now new again. I see rock and roll still in the forefront. It's came back. It's doing great. All those grunge bands have done well too, and they still have careers. And it's all happy. You have to find yourself getting through that storm, and I think that's what Enuff Z'Nuff has done throughout the years. And it's really a blessing from above and a miracle that we're still going right now after all these years.
I'm seeing a resurgence for 80s music and people even younger than me wanting to see older bands like Enuff Z'Nuff and the Warrants and, all those 80s bands. Are you seeing that too? Like, are you feeling like, oh my gosh, we're on a comeback streak?
Absolutely. Tom Kiefer out there on tour. He still sounds like he did when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Quiet Riot, LA Guns, Faster Pussycat are all putting new music out there. Yeah, absolutely. There's a resurgence for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, when you go to those big shows and big concerts, even the one that we just had with Ozzy, look how many people showed up there and participated in that celebration of rock and roll and heavy metal. It's not going away. There's just less of us out there right now. And the new form of music, the new rock and rollers that are out there, to me, like, I know they're maybe not new, but the ones that to me are fairly new, like the Rival Sons and the Dirty Honeys and the Tyler Bryant, the Shakedowns, those bands are going to carry the flag for us. And I think we need to support those bands too. And the pop bands too. They're a little bit rock. I love that band, the Lemon Twigs. They deserve more respect. So there's new music that's out there, and I'm missing a bunch of them right now too. I'm half asleep. I smoked 20 joints last night on the balcony here in Alabama. I'm still living my life vicariously through Ozzy Osbourne. There's a ton of bands that are out there right now that are just coming up. We need to support them.
We just talk about the Lemon Twigs, and there are a lot of bands wanted, where there's that power pop with an edge vibe happening. They've got the stage presence, the look, the sound, the hook. I think there's a resurgence, a revival fighting its way through right now. I mean, I get young artists sending me their music all the time. It's like, damn, there's that hook, which for me, Enuff Z'Nuff, and a very small category, incredible band. You talk about grunge. It's like grunge was the polar opposite of everything of Enuff Z'Nuff, And it did go through a big shift there, but I think it's coming back.
Yeah, well, music will always be important to us, and we don't have MTV, we don't have VH1 anymore, but we have radio around the country, and iHeart and SiriusXM and the Monsters of Rock. There's good stations that are out there that provide us rock and roll and heavy metal 24 hours a day, and maybe there'll be another station one day that shows the music videos, because I think that's a purveyor of good things to happen. People get a chance to see the bands. We're in a day and age right now where people are listening with their eyes instead of their ears. So I'd certainly like to see another MTV out there one day. Will it happen? Who knows? In my time. But if it wasn't for those programs back then, a lot of us wouldn't have a career.
True.
What were some of your influences? Because Enuff Z'Nuff as a brand, very distinct sound. You got some great hook in there. So where do you think your inspiration for that hook came from?
Probably from across the pond. We listened to Beatles and T-Rex and Mark Bolan, big fan. Of course, the old Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Queen. I'm an old soul, bro. I love that old rock and roll. They just don't make it like that anymore, okay? Where artists like Elton John are coming out there and just, writing, playing on piano and coming up with these great songs. Music is, the songs are like embryos. It's like the beginning of a relationship. It's the start of a life. And to come up with these things is very special. And we're in a day and age where there's so much stuff that's happening around us right now. There's plenty of things to write about. But to find an audience, that's the challenging part right there. So if anybody that's out there playing music, I just tell them, put your best record together and go out there and hawk it. And that's how we did it. We hustled in the early days, and hard work finds a home. That's it. We've been a band. Enuff Z'Nuff has always been a band. It's hard to categorize. In the early days, journalists didn't know what to call us because it was a hodgepodge of pop, rock, alternative, metal. I think we're a little bit of all of the above. And I really believed that we were alternative before alternative. We certainly weren't trying that. We just wanted to be a rock band. That's all we cared about, right? Try to write some cool songs that people recognize. And most of the songs were written about our experiences in life, and maybe we can share them with the audience. And that's what we've done. And it's really been it's been a tough and challenging career, but at the end of the day, the legacy will be, here's a band that had over 300 songs on Spotify, toured around the country, hung out with the biggest rock stars, and made music for themselves.
And had a really good time.
Yeah. I've got a perfect
absolutely.
You gave me a perfect segue, Chip, to the new album, Extra Cherries, because track 6, Back to the Wall, you end that with a bit of We Will Rock You at the end.
You are what you eat. Guilty as charged.
Was that
I just put these, I'm not kidding you. I put these songs together. I write them quickly and I record them. This is not 3-4 weeks of one song and overthinking things. I just want to put together, I write them on acoustic guitars mostly, and then just record them immediately. That's exactly what I did for that one right there. I've had a couple other people go, it sounds a little like ELO. It sounds a little Beatlesque. It's a little bit Queen. Well, duh. I'm the guy who grew up listening to that stuff. I love it, and I want to keep it alive. And I'm not pillaging, but even the Beatles nicked off the best artists in the world.
I think they all do that. Actually, we were talking to Tracy Guns, and he was talking about how he liked to a lot of Led Zeppelin and LA Guns. He's like,
yeah, show me an artist without influences, and I'll show you a jagoff that hasn't written one note.
Oh yeah, Paul McCartney talked at length about Buddy Holly. You know what they took from Buddy. I mean, hell, even the name, the Beatles, they were inspired by the Crickets.
Yeah, absolutely. McCartney, there you go. One of the greatest. By the way, he just had a birthday last month. Happy birthday, Paul. We did a record dedicated to the Beatles a few years ago called Hard Rock Night. And it's all Beatles songs from 1967 through 1970. And we reached out to Paul and Ringo and got permission to put the record out there. And it's a fabulous record because it's their songs, obviously, but it's the Beatles through a kaleidoscope, my kaleidoscope, plugging in commercial amplifiers and big drums and Mesa Boogie amps. And it's a powerful record. And I put those songs in the set along with Fly Michelle, New Thing, Baby Loves You, and all the Enuff Z'Nuff singles every single night. The fans love it beyond belief. Turn the Beatles songs into our own. It's just, what an incredible trajectory that band has had. That would be the template I would use with Enuff Z'Nuff. I'm just trying to chase down exactly what they've done. Success-wise, we'll never catch them. But song-wise, we just want to put out as much material as we can that's possible, because I think not only do we deserve that, but so do the fans.
Mm-hmm, sure.
A couple other tracks I just wanted to bring up. I love the song. You know, I listened to an album front to back, and when I got to Magnificent with Steve Stevens, I love that track a lot.
Appreciate that. You know, I got lucky there, and I go back with Steve a long way. Back in the 80s, he lived in New York. He was always flamboyant, colorful, and flashy, and he had just had a great sense of balance. And I played on some demos for him, and I think I did an okay job because he thanked me on the record that he put out, and we stayed in touch. I played Donington Download in 2010 with Rage Against the Machine and Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, and Aerosmith and Stone Temple Pilots. We got a chance to share a stage 3 days out there, and I spent some great time backstage with Steve. It was really a wonderful moment for me. And years later, I get a message through Instagram from Steve saying, "Bro, I was just listening to Little Steven's Garage Radio, and Little Steven was playing a song called Man Without a Heart off one of your records." And I said, "Oh, hey, bro," I typed him back, "Thanks a lot. I appreciate your nice, kind words." And he goes, "What are you guys doing now?" I said, "I'm making another record." And I have members of all these bands playing with me, you know, Journey and Cheap Trick and the Nelsons and Trickster. He goes, "Give me a track." And I did. 10 minutes later, he says, "This is solid as a rock. Great job." He goes, "I'm going to put some guitars on here for you." And then it just grew from there. And one day he put down all the leads, all the rhythms, and then had some arrangements too. He goes, "Hey, let's have maybe the music should drop out right here. Here's what I think you should do." And everything he said to me, I listened to him. He was the golden god on that one for sure. And it's a strong rock track, and it pretty much deals with how we grew up with promiscuity and substance abuse. That's a perfect song. I can write about those every single day.
What a song. Now, the last track, though, Shine, Robert Fleischman, who we've had on the show, and with Neil Schoen. Dean, did you want to bring up anything about that track?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I was listening to it. I think I made a post on Facebook, and Robert, pings me. He's like, "Well, you know, I'm singing on that," which I knew he had been, but I hadn't really thought about it. And I was like, "Holy shit, Robert, this is incredible." I mean, the voice was like, what a perfect selection.
Yeah, I was lucky to get him on that. Robert was doing his record, I think it was called Emotional Atlas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a year and a half ago or so. And he called me and says, "I want you to play bass on this record." And I know when Robert used to work with Journey in the old days, and he only was in the band for a year or so, but his contribution was undeniably important. You know, he co-wrote with Neil Sean, Wheel in the Sky and Anytime, and a couple other smash hit songs that Journey has done throughout the years. So I play on that record, and I was the only real instrument on that Emotional Atlas record with Robert Fleischman. You know, everything else besides his beautiful voice. And I ended up playing bass on almost every single track, and I spent a day out there. It was really a wonderful time, and he took real good care of me. Went out to a wonderful dinner, talked about the old days of doing cocaine and LSD with Journey. It was really good. It was really good. He was charming beyond belief. And so when I found this track that I did back in 1992, I was producing a band called the Cyclops Blues Band with Dave Denny, who worked with Steve Miller. We both were working together on this record. It was a blues record that featured members of Sly and the Family Stone and Journey and Europe and To the Tubes, all these great guys. And I was really lucky enough to get called to co-produce this record. And Neil and Herbie Herbert, who I consider one of the greatest managers in rock and roll ever, flew out to Chicago. And we had a couple extra hours over at Chicago Recording Company, which isn't even no longer there. Queen recorded there, Genesis, Plant Page, Pearl Jam, all the great bands. And here I am in a studio doing this record. And we took a little time out, and I think we had 2 hours of recording time still left. And Neil plugged in his Les Paul. Donnie got on the piano. I was playing bass. Not sure if it was Ricky Perrin or Vikki Foxx playing drums. And we ended up laying down this track. And it was really, really, it was a fun song, but there was no title. It was just the music of this great idea that we all had together. And it just sat for years and years. So when I was putting the record together, Extra Cherries record it is, I went inside the library, the Z'Nuff library at my crib, which is down in the basement, in these old Journey flight cases, a Brinks truck full of DAT tapes and 8-track tapes and all these 2-inch tapes. And I just got lucky with my engineer, Rob Posen, and we found that one song. And of course, there was no vocal on it. And all of a sudden, bing, the red light went off on my head. Robert Fleischman, let's call him. I can reacquaint him with Neil Sean without getting in the same room together. And I know Neil would love it too, because Herbie Herbert's idea. You got to get Neil on a song, Chip. So anyway, Robert came down and he flew to Chicago, and in less than a half an hour, we were done with the song. He sang it. It was 1 or 2 takes. He was an incredible vocal, a wonderful lyric he wrote to the song, dealing about, celebrating life, moving forward, don't give up. And that's what I loved about the track. And I had to add that on the record. And we're happy that the Journey fans will get a chance to hear a track with Enuff Z'Nuff celebrating a life of hard rock and metal after all these years. It's really a miracle to have those two together on a song.
So I knew that Shine was a few years in the making, but it sounds like it's a lot more than a few years.
Oh, absolutely. Those cats haven't got together since we're talking 40 years. Yeah, I don't think they even spoke, to be honest with you. And I don't think there was nobody was being cantankerous. Neil's out there kicking ass with Journey and doing the stuff he does, and Robert was doing the same thing and doing all his artwork and playing on records. He had a solo career. And I remember he was doing fine. I'm the one that put these guys back together again for this collaboration. It's a miracle that we've been able to do it. And anybody that's out there, it's a Journey fan or an Enuff Z'Nuff fan, can go out and get this record, and you can celebrate that song, something that would never happen. It was just really a miracle.
One of my favorite questions, Chip, that I like to ask people, especially artists like yourselves, because, we have a thing on the app called The Song Story, where we want to know, who you are through music. And I have a tendency to ask people like yourselves, what was the first piece of music that you remember buying with your own money?
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Awesome.
I think that'd be the very first one. My dad turned me on to old Black Sabbath and Rare Earth and Captain Beyond and Crack the Sky and underground bands that were really great. But Sweet Hitchhiker by Creedence Clearwater Revival was the first 45 that I purchased with my own money. But there's so many great bands that are out there from the old past days that, I still to this day listen to that old Woodstock record, with Jimi Hendrix, still one of the greatest guitar players of our generations. So there's tons of stuff out there for people to get. If we stop playing music now and just kept the music that was out there right now, we're set for the next 50 years for sure. There's enough great songs and great musicians that are out there from the past that'll trip our trigger and put a smile on our knitted brows.
So, which leads me to another question, just real quick. How are you feeling about the new AI bands coming out? What does that bring up?
I don't really pay attention to it. I know AI is going to be a big thing. Instead of calling it artificial intelligence, we should just call it American intelligence. We come up with the technology. It should be, that's a better name. I think artificial is kind of like a shortcut to thinking. But I'm not interested in hearing any bands that are pillaging off the Queen and all the great bands from the past, Beatles. And I think that if the AI can make its own music like all the great bands have done, I have no complaints whatsoever. But to take our sounds and then pillage them and use them and not reward us with finances, I think that's a shortcut to thinking.
Yeah, there we have it.
Thank you, darling. Dean, thank you, buddy. I'm glad you're on with us.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Chip.
All right, God bless you guys. Thanks for plugging the record. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll catch you on tour one of these days. Come out and see a show, okay?
Oh, you know it. Thank you, Chip.
Yeah.
God bless, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.